Hey guys, it's Brandi McAndrew, nurse practitioner. This is Aesthetically Unfiltered, where we talk all things aesthetics, no filter, just facts. Okay, so I'm here with Jen Tompkins. She is my practice director, and we are going into the topic that everybody has been waiting for us to go into. So I need to stop looking.
Weight loss.
Yes, weight loss and tirzepatide and all the things that we've experienced on our own.
Yep.
And just us as a practice, how we've grown our weight loss system and program. So
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like when you started working here and where you were. And that was before we even had this
we
program.
we didn't even bring it on. I think we had a patient talk about it. And so it's when it kind of first hit the market, like the big weight loss medication.
Fad.
Yeah. And so what we were getting it from, I was on Semaglutide. I think we started around the same time. And we were getting it from a nurse practitioner.
So this was before we offered it. Let's
Right,
get the timeline
correct.
straight. So we didn't want to offer anything. And just like I'll always say this, we do not offer anything that we haven't tried ourselves, that we
don't stand by.
Yeah, no, it works.
Right.
That, people aren't going to be dropping like flies. Like we didn't
Right.
want to hurt anybody. Ultimately, that is my goal. Is I don't want to hurt anybody.
Yep.
And I want people to get results no matter what. So I didn't want to offer it. I had people messaging me all the time for it. And I wanted to make sure that there were studies and that, people weren't getting hurt and that it was actually working.
I remember you were super hesitant.
Yeah, it was because
Very hesitant.
it got to the market so fast.
Yeah.
Just like the COVID vaccine, I'm not going to just take something until I know that it really works. Right.
Right.
So even with weight loss, even the pharmaceuticals that we have, the vitamins here, like I'm not going to offer anything that I don't truly stand behind.
Yeah.
So,
and it was like, is this just a fad? Like what's going on? Like it really wasn't tested. I mean,
it was like a money grab to me.
Yeah. So, it was in 2022 because that's when I started in November of 2022 here at the Aesthetic House. And so December of 2022 is when I started. Cause remember we took it and we had our brunch. And I got super sick.
Our first group brunch when she started working for us, she was super sick for it because semaglutide was making people sick, and it was
and then we were drinking. I was like pounding mimosas like crazy. Got a really bad headache, and that was it. I was done after that. So I had been on it for a couple months and maybe lost like 12, I think 15 pounds was the max I lost, but it was still like I had all the side effects. I think migraines was the worst, and I already suffer from migraines. So like that was just debilitating. Like it was
Wasn't
awful.
Worth it,
no.
Almost.
But then it's like, well, no, I want to be skinny. So I'll just deal with it.
Yeah, basically.
So coming from when I started here, looking back on it, like looking at pictures, I'm just like, what the fuck, Jen? Like it's actual, crazy. I was like, that's disgusting, like.
No, it wasn't. But
it
was that the heaviest you've ever been?
No.
Oh, okay. So
even I then. Was, right. So it was 2022. I was postpartum for about 3 years, but then I had just left high stress job.
Oh, that'll do it.
Yeah. Depression, anxiety, all of that. So I had probably lost about a good 30 pounds like on my own. And that was at my absolute worst. Like that was the heaviest I've ever been in my entire life. Coming off of, like I said, I think it was more just stress induced than anything postpartum, even though postpartum, it did take me a while.
Yeah.
So then
stress is the number one cause for my weight fluctuations my whole life. So I will go into that.
And I guess I never realized that, like I did eat my like feelings, I guess, and then being, diagnosed with anxiety and depression, I just thought that's who I was. I just coped with it and never realizing that that's actually what it was. I mean, and I'm not talking like depressed, like in bed all the time. No, it just comes in many different forms.
Yeah.
So then fast forward, was here, I got on semaglutide, lost about 12, 15 pounds. And then really we brought on, when did we bring on tirzepatide?
I think it was like in June.
I think it was in June.
Is when once we realized that, I took a class from another injector that had been prescribing it for a very long time already. Yep. And so these medications have been around a long time.
Yeah.
it's just the compounded form that we were,
right.
you know, we wanted to make sure we were getting it from a reputable pharmacy.
Yep.
Those are the kind of things that you need to make sure that your provider's doing. End of story. Like, you could be injecting something that you don't even know what it is. So
exactly.
We'll go into that. But I took classes. I made sure that I understood the pharmacology of it and the mechanism of action and how it truly worked, and that it wasn't just a crutch, that, you know, it really helped people. And I could tell you, like, many lives have been changed by us putting people in ours included.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think we obviously got it before we brought it on, you know, to the
I put my whole family on it.
Yeah. So we were probably on it a good solid month and a half before we even brought it on. So I think in June, and
once you switched over to Peptide, it was like
that was
changer.
it. Yeah. So I've been on it since June of last year, and I'm down now, since I weighed myself this morning, like 90 pounds.
That's so awesome.
It is. It's it's like,
I know you hate looking at pictures, but like, pictures just show like everything, right? It shows, it just shows how happy you are now compared to even then. Like, you can tell in pictures.
And it was, you know, but I was always on the heavier side, like, my entire life. So I grew up in a household where my parents love to cook, and they're phenomenal cooks. But the downside to that, you know, and just the generation that we lived in, like, it was
Finish
always
your plate.
Yeah, you finish everything on your plate. You don't get up until you leave. It was always a carb. There was always some type of protein and a vegetable, and there was always bread. Like, I'm a bread lover. My whole family's a bread lover. Yeah. So it wasn't that, there was just not good habits that were instilled, right? And so and it wasn't the best food either.
Yeah.
It was.
No, I truly think with being overweight, it's not something like, there are doctors that are like, there's a gene, you know. I truly feel like it's environmental factors. It's growing up in households that are larger. You learn their things, you know, you're drinking sodas, it's those extra things. And honestly, my family was never the most healthy. My mom, you know, I'm like, what did I eat as a kid? Like, and she says she was pretty good about it. And then she gets on me for giving my kid a cupcake. But it's like, you have to find that medium, right? You can't the kids have to be kids, or else if you restrict them from things, then when they're out of your sight, they're going to go crazy and binge snacks. Exactly. So it's like, you got to find the medium to where, you know, they're getting healthy foods and snacks in, but they're also being active, right? I think activity as a child is the most important thing.
Yeah. And I mean, and I danced for 15 years. And so even that, you know, I look at my grandparents, you know, they were just, part of it is hereditary.
No,
you know?
I definitely think so.
And I just struggled always, even though I was active, I just struggled keeping the weight off. I was we talk about this, a yo-yo dieter. Like, this fad would come out.
We grew up in the 90s. Like, the 90s where sticks were like our idols, right? But then you read Jessica Simpson's book, and all of them, they were made to be like that. And they were restricted, and they worked out all the time to get like that. Like, it wasn't something that they naturally just had. They were pushed to be that. And then we kind of, you know, envied them, and they were our role models. And if you look back at it now, it's like, if I would have grown up now, like, there's role models that are on the bigger side, the more muscular side. That is where I've always been really muscular. So anytime I had extra weight on me, I always looked bigger, right? I was looking back at pictures from when I was in high school, and I always thought I was big. And then now I look back at it, I'm like, I would love to be that big. But even though I just remember the girls weighing 20 to 25 pounds less than me, even though we looked similarly, I just had more muscle on me. Right. And so muscle wasn't cool back then.
It really wasn't. No. So it was like the flat abs, like the low cut jeans,
skinny, like
Britney Spears.
So I'm glad that, you know, a little muscle's coming back in, because my body type is a little more muscular. But when you put fat on top of muscle, even though the smallest amount, it just makes you look bigger. It's, you know, when I was doing CrossFit, I was probably in the best shape of my life, but I didn't look it because I had weight on top of my muscles. So, you know, we'll talk about how, you know, this actually helps you, you know, burn a little differently. It helps you feel full longer, yes, but it also helps you burn fat differently. It does.
Yeah. And I think there's a component, like the whole the mentality, like your mental state, your mind, the whole mindset around it, because yes, physically you're changing, but like I still look at pictures, right? And you'll laugh at me and you're like, oh my God, you look so good. And I'm like, no, but I still see the girl that was, 90 pounds heavier. Like that's still what I see. And I get emotional talking about it because it's just like, I've always had confidence, but you also have to like learn how to love yourself.
Oh yeah.
With every phase, And so that's, I think, been the biggest struggle of this whole entire process is that, the mental component of it all. Cause like,
yeah. And I think that's the hardest thing with my patients. And that's why it's important that we're talking about it, because I can have somebody that comes in and they like lost 50 pounds in 4 months and they're not happy with that.
Right.
And I'm like, girl, you're killing it. Like they would have never lost 50 pounds without the help of this drug. And I think the society and the industry is just making people feel like, oh my God, you should lose 40 pounds in 1 month. Like that is not sustainable. That's not healthy. No. That's not what we're doing here at the Aesthetic House.
No. So it took 90 pounds and that was in 14 months.
Yeah. Which is unbelievable. Like that is like insane, but it seems like it takes a long time, right?
And you want it because we live in the world of instant gratification, now. Right? But I just think about if I didn't start, like 14 months would have gone by, and
well, I remember when you first started and you were actually talking about mommy makeovers, and I was comfortable enough because I knew you. I was like, Jen, you can't do that right now. Like, no, you have to get. You have to get into the best shape of your life and then go get it. That way it's worth your money.
Exactly.
So in postpartum, we'll talk about that. That was the hardest part of my life because I didn't recognize my body after, even though it wasn't that great to begin with, but it really was. It really wasn't good after. But, once I got on this and I started losing it and I felt like human again, then I was like, I have to offer this to people because it made me feel so much better, even just fitting my scrubs again. Like it just is changes your life.
More and more, right? So we were on it. People were asking, really you, because you had lost, I think you lost way quicker than I did in the beginning. And patients were coming in and they were on it, but they were like, you were hearing the stories of how their providers were not being treated properly. Yeah. And you were like,
they weren't even titrating them. They had like their office staff titrating them. I mean, you helped me, but
right. But we've also been on it and we've done a lot of education around it. It's not like we're just like, oh yeah, let's just.
But then we also had somebody come in and they're like, I've been on this for this long and it's my friend is giving it to me, but it doesn't work. And then the first dose they get from us, they're like, holy crap, like that works. So it is where you're getting it from that truly freaking matters. And the minute that, this pharmacy doesn't work out, or if it ever, like, I will go to whoever else is the best. So it comes at a price, right? The drug is expensive, but it truly works. And so I need, as a consumer, I would be willing to pay a little bit more to get the one that works.
Right.
And not the one that's probably like rat poison off of
the black market.
Yeah. So
you don't know what you're injecting.
Truly think about what you're putting in your body. We are already over consumed with shit food, like McDonald's, all that's not even real food anymore. None of it. So if you go, we order food from restaurants, you don't know what you're getting, unless you go to a decent one, right? Right. So you have to be very careful about what else you're putting in your body because we're already putting in a bunch of crap. So exactly. At this point, like, is water even healthy? I don't know.
Some waters aren't, apparently.
So there's just so many chemicals and everything that at this point, everything is just, to me, scary. I know. You're kind of just guessing what you put in your body. So I'm not a huge medication person. I don't even take Tylenol because I think Tylenol is the worst thing in the world. But I do believe in peptides, and I do believe that they work and that they're going up from here. So there's so many different ones that can help with muscle wasting and just anti-aging and anti-cancer. Like, wait, there's going to be so much more. They're making it really hard to get access to these for a reason, right? So if we all start getting on all these peptides, then guess what? Big Pharma's going bye-bye. So, we have to remember that there's a reason why things are going to be harder to get. But also, I think that there's going to be so many more medications that come out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because of these.
Hopefully it gets cheaper so that it's more affordable. I had patients that tried to get it through their insurance. I couldn't get it for them when they really needed it. That's what's
or right,
really
what's
shitty.
really screwed up, right, is like they were getting it approved because of their numbers, right? They're for diabetics or pre-diabetics or whatever. They start taking the medication,
They lose weight, and then
they lose
stop
weight,
covering.
and then they can't get it. So then they have to go the compounded route. Like, how screwed up is that?
Yeah, that's healthcare in the USA,
right?
So, let's talk about like how it's impacted your life and just like family and, you know, being a mom and.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's impacted every facet of my life, right? Like, I think the biggest thing for me is more of the mental, like, I'm not good with compliments. Like, what is that saying? Like, when you hate getting compliments, or I don't know, whatever that saying is.
I'm not either. I get really awkward.
But I get really awkward and I'm just like, oh, thanks, you know? And so people that I haven't seen, even because it started out very slow. And at first I was like, I mean, I've lost 15 pounds. Nobody's saying anything.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you know, but now it's like, it's so dramatic that when people like I haven't seen, they don't recognize me.
Oh, like your family reunion that no one recognized you at?
Literally, like they don't recognize me. Or right, it's family, but they haven't seen me in a couple months. And so they'll start complimenting me. And it makes me I don't know, it just makes me uncomfortable, but I like it at the same time, you know? So it's so mentally crazy, like what you go through, because you see yourself every day and you don't see the changes, right? Like we don't even, because we see each other every single day, that we don't even see it in
until
each other.
I see your scrubs falling off and I'm like, okay, it's time for a smaller pair.
Exactly.
Like, okay, Jen.
Right. You're like, okay, you really need to take those off. So it's, I think the whole mental aspect of it. And like I said, I've never been this, and I'm not even small. Like, I don't even say I'm small. Like, I've never
you're
been
small. You're getting
this
small
in my life. Maybe when I was like in high school, that's I think the smallest I've ever been. So being able to fit in clothes that like I will still buy larger size clothes and then I get them and they don't fit.
They're literally falling off of you.
And so my husband's like, why are you buying like the same size clothes? Like that's how like screwed, like how this affects, you know, how it affects me.
No, I agree with that. I've just fluctuated my whole entire life. So after high school, I went to college and, you know, I went from being an athlete to being nobody and being in nursing school and prereqs for nursing. So right away, stress, you know, I was in a terrible relationship in college. And so I was working a job that had terrible food there. So I put on weight pretty quickly, even though I was still active and working out. I had trainers. It didn't matter. I truly believed I can outwork a bad diet. And I learned really quickly that I couldn't. And emotionally, I'm an emotional stress eater. I wish I was one of those people that gets skinnier when they're stressed.
No,
I was
not
the
either.
opposite.
Exactly.
So college, you know, there was a part-time of college that I just did not like. And then once I moved back to New Orleans and got into nursing school, then I started getting a little bit healthier. I got into a healthier relationship, but I still just always felt like I was overworking everybody else around me and they were just skinny.
Yeah. So, well, even my problem is like, I didn't have a healthy diet. Not that I didn't, that I ate bad, but I also worked, right, a high stress job. I was constantly on my feet. I didn't eat throughout the day. So then when I got home,
same.
Is when I binged.
I think a lot of people do that, and that's the worst thing you can do for yourself. So eating little snacks throughout the day, especially when you're on this, you know, is the most important thing you can do, because you don't want to go too long without eating, because then you're like, give me everything, and then you get sick really easily.
Exactly.
So
that was part of my problem. And then I would be working out hardcore and nothing. But again, it was
can't outwork a bad diet. I've done everything. I've done every diet pill you can imagine. I've done tracking every single calorie. And there was one point when me and John were tracking our calories in COVID, and we both looked like twigs. We look back and we're like, ew, we look so small. But yeah, I mean, there's just different parts of life where you're going to be bigger, and you have to be okay with that a little bit, especially as a mom. So
absolutely. And genetics, right? Like I know, like I have big hips, a big ass, and
it ain't going nowhere. Large
thighs. Like that's just good. That's my genetic makeup. And I I hated that for so long, right? I just have to learn that that's, no matter what size I am, like those things are still going to be there. They're just going to be a lot smaller.
Yeah.
But embrace it.
Yeah. And then nutrition is super important. You know, you've got to get enough protein in. You got to take supplements that if you're not getting, you know, all of your nutrients in, then we have a great Designs for Health here, and we can guide you to get on the right things that you need to be on.
Yeah.
Zinc, vitamin D, B12, all of those are super important. A multivitamin, that's the least you can do.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then as you get off of your tirzepatide or, you know, whatever one you're on, you could be on metabolic synergy, which is actually going to act like a GLP-1 without, you know, having to inject it, right?
Yeah. And I think that's too, it's a tool, right? It's not the end all be all. Yes, I think it's it's done miracles for both of us, for our patients, you know, people have struggled to lose weight and then they finally get on this and have lose weight. I mean, how many of our patients have been diagnosed with PCOS?
Yeah. Oh, that's the most common thing. They respond so well to it because their bodies have just been in this, you know, state of insulin resistance. So, and I do feel like at one point in my life, I was just like insulin resistance. I was under so much stress that my cortisol level was just through the roof. I had like cortisol belly, you know, my adrenals are like, help. So I lived a high stress job. I traveled. I was a travel nurse. I worked night shift for 6 years. I mean, my body has been through like hell and back.
Kids.
Having kids ruined you, everything. So
we love them, but
I do feel like I wouldn't be where I am right now without the help of this tool, because I do feel way more confident. And even though I've weaned off a little bit while I'm trying to get pregnant for my second kid, like I am going to put on some weight in between that, and that's fine. So I've already gone into it knowing that, I'm going to have to wean off. I'm going to gain weight having another one. And I have this tool for when I am done breastfeeding or whatever happens.
But hopefully, you know, throughout that period, I know you have, right? But our patients, they've like with the help of our education, like have instilled healthy habits. So when they do eventually wean off, yes, everybody, just like you stop any diet, like you're going to put some weight back on. But if you haven't incorporated those healthy habits, I always with anything, patients, it's going to come back.
It's much easier to maintain than it is to lose. So, you know, as long as you're not overeating, then, and there's things discussions that I have in the room with them, real honest ones. Like if you don't do these things, you're going to gain weight. So all these people online, they're like, oh, you just get off of it and gain weight. Not everybody does. No. So that's not the case for everyone. No. And then not comparing your friends' weight loss, right? So like people lose at different rates. And then people have different BMIs and they start differently. So, and then some people just don't eat at all. Like you don't want to lose as fast as your friend if that's how she's doing it.
No,
absolutely not.
No. So, because if you lose too quick, then you're going to have all this loose skin. I mean, you're going to have, especially if you've had a lot of weight to lose, like, you know, myself, like I have loose skin, like it's going to happen. I have a plan in the future, hopefully.
But I do feel like your face, like you don't realize how much weight you've lost in your face, like, cause you don't have the aging effects of it. So you've been really lucky. Even though we have tools to help with that if it happens, but you really do, like, you don't have that Ozempic face that everybody is getting, even with all the weight loss.
And, but I think part of that is because I lost so slow. You know?
Slow.
Yeah.
Slow. And let's talk about how we've set up a successful system for the weight loss program. It took us a while to figure out,
to like get in our groove,
ordering meds and just making sure everybody has had their labs done and that I've seen them and that I'm checking in with them at least every 3 months, you know, unless they're changing, dosages. So, but a lot of the times you're my go-to woman to like make sure that they're ordered on time. They're sticking, you know, they're staying with their follow-up and all that good stuff.
Making sure they definitely have a follow-up, whether it's a virtual, or even like coming in. I mean, we can do virtuals as long as we've seen them a couple times in, you know, in the spa. Then when you feel comfortable saying, hey, we can do virtual, but some of the places that'll just never follow up with them, never do labs.
No, I had somebody with a BMI of 19 in my chair getting the med from one of my competitors. And I was just like, there's no way in my right mind that I'm writing you this prescription when you literally are in my chair, like bones. Yeah. So there is like, I will say no. I will make sure. There's some people that I give a little on that BMI if they're postpartum or, you know, I really, you know, the postpartum moms
get you.
pull at me because
guess.
I know it was like the worst time of my life. So I'll help those women out a little bit more than, you know, I usually help people out.
Yeah.
But
then you also are very upfront with them and you're like, look, you're probably not going to be on this for very long. Like,
maybe I give them a timeline.
Yeah. A couple months and they follow up every like.
And then a lot of people change their weight loss goal once they start seeing that they're getting closer and closer. Ooh, I can do this. Ooh, I can do this. Even me. I was like, ooh, let's see. I can do this. I dated this guy that was a huge CrossFitter. And this is a story that'll always stick with me. So one day he said to me, he's like, you would look really good at 135. And I was like a solid 155. So like, and I was doing CrossFit. Like I was like pretty, you know, in shape, but I just, like I said, I had more muscle and a little bit of fat on top of it. But he's like, yeah, you would look really good at 135. And that's always stuck with me. And I was 138 in high school. Like 135 is low for me, for my body type. And I got down to it on this med. And now I look back at pictures of me and I'm like, ooh, I was kind of a little, like at the first I was like, ooh, he was right. Yeah. And then now I'm just like, that's not sustainable. Like that. I look skinny.
Like 135 on me, like,
oh my God, we'd be like, where's Jen? We can't see her. No, absolutely not. I'm going to put a stop to that before. But even like your goal weight, I told you may not get there because that is like so small. You might look sick. Like they might be like, Jen's needs to be like, admitted or something.
No. So, but I know that, right? Like I know like 115, 120, 130, like that would never.
I haven't weighed that since I was 10 and a half.
I literally, I don't know.
There's no way.
Probably 5 years old. Maybe that's what I weigh.
I think numbers need to just like stop and we just go by our clothes and we go by what we look like and what we feel like, right?
Yeah.
So once I stop fitting in all my clothes again, then I'll be like, okay, Brandi, you need to tone it down a little. But there was one point that I was so skinny, but I didn't see it. No, you know, everybody else saw it. And once I start seeing it in my face, that's when I was like, okay, let's wean this back. So even for me as a provider and what I know and my knowledge and expertise, I still went overboard a little bit. Yeah. And I'll admit that all day long. Yeah. So my body likes 150. She's a solid 150 and that's where my body likes to be. So it is what it is.
And that's where you look the healthiest. I mean,
and look, I'm a mom right now. I can only work out 2 to 3 days a week max. Same. If I get that, I'm like ecstatic. If I don't, then I'm okay. Because my daughter's only this age for so long and I'm not going to miss out on any time with her. And I'm sure as hell not going to wake up early and go before work. So no, apparently I can't do that. I keep getting cancellations from Evolve.
I mean, we try to do
$30,
but you know.
Yes, but I'm so proud of you for coming with us and doing, you know, throwing yourself in there. And even though
I mean, look, Pilates is not for the weak.
No,
dude,
they brought. Let's talk about how they brought you a stick one day. I wasn't there.
You missed it. You'd have been, you'd have been dying.
Just getting out there and like getting into, you know, a group class. Like that's hard for anybody who hasn't done that in a while. Yeah. And I used to do Orange Theory and all that. But even me, I'm like, oh, I don't want to go work out in front of anybody. And then now I feel a little bit better about doing it. But I'm still like the weakest one in the room. But it's fine. You know, the main thing with being on these tirzepatide and all that is making sure that you keep your protein intake because
your muscle mass.
I should have been a little better about that, even though I kept a decent amount of my muscle. Yeah. No matter what diet you're on, though, you're going to lose. Calorie deficit equals weight loss equals mass loss. You know.
Yeah, I mean, right? Like we preach a lot, right, to our patients and stuff, but even us, we're like, drink the water. You know, drink so many ounces of water, and then like we're struggling on a daily basis to like get our water intake. You know, I mean, it's hard. So it's just, you do what you can do, you know, in the back of your mind. But yes, prioritizing when we do eat, prioritizing protein, prioritizing our water. I haven't had any nausea, really. I mean, I'll get like a wave of nausea here and there.
Really, if you don't eat enough or you eat too much, that's when you can start having the side
never thrown up, anything on this medication. The biggest, I think, symptom for me has been the fatigue.
Tiredness, but you're going to have that on any type of calorie deficit anyway. So
and hair loss, because that was some of the things we got.
Let's address that real quick before
how to prevent hair loss. And it's not that's a lot of people will be like, oh, it's the drug. The drug's going to make you. No, it's just
calorie deficit.
Lose weight, and when you're in that big of a weight loss, you're gonna lose
Correct.
You're gonna lose
Every
your hair.
every time I've been in the best shape of my life, I've always lost hair, especially around.
Yeah.
It's just your hair needs nutrients that, you know, when you're at a calorie deficit, it can, you know, shed a little bit more. So
Right.
you'll notice those effects. But once you kind of maintain a little bit more, get back into that maintenance phase, you'll see it growing back. You
Yeah.
can do Nutrafol. There's lasers in the future that I would like to bring on. So
Yeah.
that'll help. But yeah, there's very low side effects that we experience because we do it the right way.
Right. And we titrate up slowly. And just as we titrate up slowly, we titrate down slowly. You know, I have some that'll call us and they're like, yeah, I just stopped it. I'm like,
yeah, it doesn't make sense. But anyway, we could talk about this probably all day long, but maybe we'll have another episode once we have more questions that come in. But yeah, I'm glad we got to talk about this. I feel like a lot of people are going to relate to this. And we'll talk about more topics in the future.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all
Awesome.
guys for listening.
Thank you.